How many nuclear weapons does Iran have as of today?
Right now, I hope none.
Okay, how many does Israel have?
No idea.
No idea? You were in the government. They don't tell you that stuff.
No idea.
Who do they tell?
No idea.
Do you recognize the hypocrisy of Israel having a secret illicit nuclear weapons program that it won't open up its doors to and won't talk about, and then lecturing everyone else in the region about nuclear weapons?
Absolutely not. You know why?
You talked about hypocrisy. If an Iranian guest came on my show and I asked him about Iran's nuclear program, he said, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about it. Would you be okay with that? You'd be outraged.
Of course.
And yet you sit here as a former minister of the Israeli government saying, oh, I don't know, never talked about nuclear with anyone.
Because there was like 16 United Nations Security Council resolutions against Iran.
And there is against Israel. And there is against Israel as well.
About
your nuclear program?
No.
Yes, there is. UN Resolution 487. Let me read it to you. The UN Security Council in 1981 says, calls upon Israel urgently to place its nuclear facilities under the safeguards of the IAEA. Why haven't you done that?
Because
Iran has never attacked a neighbor. Israel has repeatedly attacked its neighbors. Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has refused to sign. Iran submits to inspection by the International Nuclear Energy Agency. Israel refuses to submit. Iran has no nuclear weapons. Israel has between 75 and 400 nuclear weapons. So Israel poses an existential threat to Iran. For the last 40 years, Israel has conducted a systematic campaign of disinformation about Iran. Why the lies? Why the double standards? Why the hypocrisy?
We shouldn't care what I think. I'm just a random stranger, okay? Let's talk about facts. Fact number one, the current Prime Minister of Israel, his name is Bibi Netanyahu, he belongs to a political group called the Likud. Fact. The founder of the Likud party, his name is Menachem Begin. Fact. Menachem Begin was the 6th Prime Minister of Israel. Fact. Menachem Begin was the founder of a terrorist group called Irgun in Israel. Fact. So he's a terrorist. That group, Irgun, has joined forces with another terrorist group called the Haganah in Israel and formed the IDF, the Israeli army. So it was founded by a group of terrorists. Fact. It wasn't Arabs or Muslims that called them terrorists. It was the British. Fact. These terrorist organizations, exploded King David Hotel in the early 1940s, resulting in 2 British people. Fact. And the word terrorist was first coined in the international lexicon to describe the Israeli group. Fact. So yeah, terrorism was invented in the Middle East to describe Israel. Fact.
It's not a good drug for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons is it's one of the primary ways that the body toxifies so badly and affects liver function. It depletes something called glutathione. It's like the main antioxidant of the body.
Correct. Concerns out of the GMO seeds.
I would say I think the biggest concern is that some of these crops already have a pesticide in them. There's a certain crop called BT corn, and it has a BT gene. When the insects eat this corn, it makes their stomachs explode. And what I think is really interesting about this is that what it's doing is it's creating holes in the stomach lining of the bugs. And something that Americans are dealing with right now at really high rates is something called leaky gut syndrome, and that means that we're getting holes in the lining of our intestines. Why did we think that this would affect insects and not affect humans?
And if it does that, like there's a lot of good evidence that say that if you over-toxify your body and you supersede the body's intelligence, that it not only makes you worse over time, but it actually creates long-term toxic issues that maybe are not symptomatic for the short term, but in the long term.
Flesh food that I would eliminate from the American diet would be poultry, would be turkey and chicken. A brilliant advertising campaign has convinced people that, oh, it's white meat, it's healthier.
The number one reason for antibiotic resistance, the number one reason little girls have menstruation at 7 and 8 years old, the number one reason women have menopause now 10 years sooner than their moms, is because people are consuming more and more hormones that come from animals. And the animal of choice today for you yuppie hippie natural eaters happen to be chicken.
The truth is, even though chicken flesh and turkey flesh has its reputation with select healthy meat, the truth is, it's the most unhealthy of all the flesh foods.
And vegan is actually designed to get people off of the food web or the source of natural energy of the earth and more on processed foods. So they like, okay, So people ain't eating processed food no more. People want to go over natural, and then they talking about the meat thing. So why don't we put the veganism and the processed thing together, and we're going to create something called plant-based? Because we think it's called plant-based because it's from a plant, and it is, but not that plant, a processing plant.
Disturbing discoveries that he made. He took me up into the ICU and showed me a number of different pieces of medical equipment, and all of them seemed to have a bullet hole in the screen.
The soldiers?
He was like, I don't understand. And I get that. I also was struggling to understand. This didn't seem like collateral damage to me. You know, these were specific pieces of medical equipment that seemed to have been systematically disabled. And I had a hard time trying to think of a way that this would be addressing a military threat, because this is equipment that's just used to take care of patients and nothing more. You can't weaponize a dialysis machine.
The police here, 99% conviction rate. Shut up.
We don't do anything illegal. You cannot take us to jail. If you are not involved, please go. Shalom, my friend. We bless you.
You're in my country.
You come to the United States, you can say whatever you want to say. That is the free world, yes?
You're not in the United States. You're in Israel.
I understand.
You cannot say whatever you want to say here.
Yes, you can. It's legal. It is legal to preach about Yeshua. We preach at Damascus Gate. The police said it's okay. We preach at Jaffa Gate. The police say it's okay. Please stop. I respect you. Respect me.
He doesn't have to respect you.
Huh?
Doesn't have to respect you.
That is the right thing. Are you Jewish? Do you want to honor God? That is the godly thing to do. We respect one another.
The godly thing to do is to kill you.
The godly thing is to kill me.
That's right. That's
Yes?
what the Torah says.
The Torah says to kill us.
The Torah says that people who worship idols such as yourself, when there is a Sanhedrin,
To kill us.
yes.
Okay.
That's what the Torah
So
says.
we know how the Jewish people feel about Christians, yes? That you discriminate against Christians.
Christians are idol
You
worshippers.
discriminate
the
against
Torah
Christians.
says that Christianity is idol worship.
Remember, kids, the next time that somebody tells you the government wouldn't do that, oh yes they
I
would.
had recommended to use an explosive entry device.
How short smoke was coming in, so we knew they dropped the bomb on us.
Police allowed the blaze to burn an hour and a half before calling in firefighters.
I don't care what they said, there was no justification for what they did.
The Trump alleged assassination was a staged event. And remember when I said a few weeks ago that there's a Jewish ceremony where they pierce the ear with an awl in order to signify capitulation. This is when someone becomes a willing servant to their master. So I guess they're no longer a slave. Now they are a willing servant. Well, check this out.
The current non-Jewish Messiah was chosen to be of service to the Jewish people and the Jewish Messiah. President Trump's right ear was grazed in a symbolic gesture of Exodus 21:6, where the Torah states that a servant who wants to remain with his master needs to have his right ear pierced. Trump was designated as God's servant and anointed one, just like Cyrus the Great almost 2,400 years ago. We have clarified in several videos that the absolute deadline for the redemption is by the end of the Jewish year 5787, which corresponds to October 2nd, 2027. 1,167 days from today. Thus, the redemption will surely occur during Donald Trump's tenure. And I have good reason to believe Donald Trump was chosen to be the one to redeem the sins of Esav through offering his assistance in rebuilding the Holy Temple on the Temple Mount and establishing the Jewish kingdom over all of mankind in Jerusalem. Perhaps it is no accident that the numeric value of Donald Trump in Hebrew is the same as Messiah, son of David, Mashiach ben David, 424. However, Donald Trump is mistaken if he thinks he was chosen to make America great again. He will no doubt do a lot of good things to strengthen our economy, protect our borders, and allow religious freedom to flourish. But America will never become a great country on its own, because Esav's days are numbered. All our elite institutions and centers of power and influence are rotten through and through. The majority of Americans under 30 who are college educated and who are the future leaders of America support the vicious monsters of Hamas rather than the holy and courageous soldiers of the IDF. No human being, even Donald Trump, can reverse this. No. The greatness of America does not lie in its own success. America will be great when the Messiah comes. And the leader of this country, on behalf of all the good people in this country, will humbly present himself to the Jewish Messiah and ask him to accept the United States of America into a new alliance of countries who accept the leadership of the Messiah. A new United Nations will replace the current cesspool that goes by that fraudulent name. A real United Nations, united to serve God, led by the Messiah and based in Jerusalem. And my feeling is that the United States under President Trump will be the first nation to join.
So that's interesting, isn't it? And it's remarkable how self-righteous these people are. I mean, if you listen to that rabbi, he seriously believes that Hamas is evil and that the Jews are the only righteous people, and these fake Jews.
Am I the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash when we have plenty of janitors who are paid to do it?
That's young Stephen Miller, and he's always been an asshole. He's Trump's deputy chief of staff for policy and homeland security advisor. He's also known as Trump's brain. Leaked emails show he's a white nationalist, which isn't surprising given that he's behind immigration policies like family separation and the Muslim travel ban. His emails show that in 2015 and 16, he promoted white nationalist books, websites, and conspiracies to editors at Breitbart, a far-right news site. More than 80% of the 900 plus emails reviewed focused on race or immigration, referring to the debunked conspiracy theory that non-white people are deliberately wiping white people off the planet. He referred to President Calvin Coolidge in his emails multiple times, backing his eugenics-based immigration policies once praised by Hitler. He was upset when some retailers stopped selling Confederate flags and symbols after the Charleston church shooting by white supremacist Dylan Roof, and encouraged Breitbart to create a counter-narrative. He often recommended articles from white nationalist websites like American Renaissance and Be There to highlight interracial crime. He pushed for coverage of The Camp of the Saints, a French novel loved by white nationalists for its racist depiction of non-white immigrants. He loves pushing false racist narratives so much that in 2017, as Trump's senior advisor, he reportedly blocked the release of a government study showing that refugees had a positive fiscal impact. But that's not all. He's friends with Richard Spencer, the most notorious white nationalist in the US. Spencer was a central figure to the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017. This guy went to high school with Miller and had a lot to say.
Stephen Miller was never bullied in high school. Stephen Miller was the bully. He bullied the kids who are already marginalized by our society, and he continues to do that from the White House today.
Φίλες και φίλοι της Σερτρία, φίλες και φίλοι του βόλεϊ, καλώς ορίσατε σε ένα ακόμα ραντεβού εδώ από το Λουτράκι, όπου είναι ένα ραντεβού μεταξύ της ΑΡ και του Ολυμπιακού.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. And then Alan Dershowitz was also implicated in it because of the planes. She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton. We had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, it was what we had was unreal. Other women backing it up. Hey, yep. Brad Edwards, the attorney, 3 years ago, saying there will come a day when we will realize Jeffrey Epstein was the most prolific pedophile this country has ever known. I had it all 3 years ago.
Is it true that Tylenol can affect allergy to something?
Create? Oh yeah, I would say through that same pathway. If you deplete the body of glutathione, every inflammatory, every immune dysregulation can be enhanced because of glutathione depletion.
How, if McDonald's is serving an all beef patty, how can 30% of it be soy? All beef patty, special sauce, lettuce.
Damn, that's like a riddle. How do they?
So easy.
Well, then what do they?
Blow your mind.
How do they do it? What's the rationale? How do they do that?
They own a company called All Beef.
Oh.
Who makes the patties? So when I see natural
That is
flavors,
so
it might as well
fucked.
say cyanide.
So
You
they
know,
so
they're not
containing
lying.
natural flavors. So really, that natural flavor should have an R next to it. Like this is actually a company, Natural Flavors.
Who knows what it
Oh
is?
my God!
I'm not saying
Selling
it's that
all
bad.
beef, the company, all beef patties. That's so fucked.
I know.
Oh, the KKK don't exist no more. Yes, the fuck they do,
they
nigga.
do.
He a judge.
Facts.
Fuck is you talking about, nigga? You know what I mean? I was arguing with my white homies, and it was like, well, why do we have to be responsible for what our people did back in the day? I said, you're not responsible, but you have a heavy duty to prove to me that you ain't like that.
Right.
And I better see that shit on a daily basis, nigga. I'm telling my white homie this shit. He's like, why? I said, when was the civil rights movement? What year was it? What decade was it? You tell me.
Like 1860, right?
All right, so my mom was born 1959, nigga. She's
Right.
still alive.
Right. Oh.
So where are them fucking crackers that wasn't fighting for us? They still here.
Right.
So don't tell me you don't gotta speak the fuck up, nigga, because my pops is older than my mom's. He's still here.
That's
You telling me ain't a white motherfucker out walking around this motherfucker that was with this shit and not saying nothing? Going about their motherfucking day? Nah, nigga, speak up when some shit happen, nigga.
Right.
Now, what I do find interesting is that when 30,000 Ukrainians sought asylum here in the city of Chicago, nobody said a mumbling word. But all of a sudden, indigenous people who are trying to get to a land that was robbed from them through colonization, they want me as a black man to be mad at them? You gotta be out of your freaking mind.
As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. The first organizational conference of Zionism, if my memory serves me correctly, was in 1897 in a place called Bâle, Switzerland. B-A-L-S-E. The reason why this meeting had to be held in Bâle, Switzerland was because the majority of Orthodox Jewry in Europe was against Zionism, totally against it. We must look properly at Zionism, its beginning, and its founder, a man by the name of Theodor Herzl, H-E-R-Z-L. Mr. Herzl was, of course, bourgeois from his toes to his top of his head. He was bourgeois. As bourgeois as you can get, he didn't think about the proletarian. As a matter of fact, Mr. Herzl himself was not a religious person. It's extremely important. And we want to read his diary. He himself says that he's an atheist. You must understand the word properly. An atheist does not just not believe in God. An atheist makes the affirmative statement that God does not exist. Thus, Mr. Herzl is an atheist. I could never understand, until this day it is incomprehensible for me to understand. How is it that Zionism, a political philosophy, born thousands of miles away from Judaism, one born in Africa, the other in Europe, born thousands of years different from Africa, thousands of years difference, Judaism thousands of years ago, Zionism 1897. And how is it that they can link each other together? And according to the philosophy of Zionism, that they feel that somehow that they have some relationship to Judaism and this promised state that God promised his chosen people. Mr. Herzl did not believe in God. Not only did not believe in God, he said that God did not exist. Now, he who tells me that God does not exist sets out to find a place that God promised to his chosen people.
In modern Jewish history, and it begins with 3 words. Dear Lord Rothschild.
Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet.
Why was it that this letter was sent by the Foreign Secretary to your great-uncle Walter?
It's an interesting question because it was primarily a movement from Eastern Europe, but they didn't clarify who was in charge of that movement. And in addition, it was after all in Great Britain. So they felt that the Rothschild family should be the one to whom it was addressed. And Walter was Lord Rothschild, and he was a Zionist. With favour the establishment of Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object.
Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel.
The Jewish state has never had a better friend in the White House. We have to get the people of our country, of this country, to love Israel more. I have to tell you that. We have to do it. We have to get them to love Israel more.
America's commitment to Israel's security flows from a deeper place. The bonds between the United States and Israel are unbreakable. And the commitment of the United States to the security of Israel is ironclad.
And let me be clear, I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself.
I get criticized for having said a long time ago, you need not be a Jew to be a Zionist. I'm a Zionist.
We can say today that America is Israel's oldest and best friend in the world.
After being there, man, holy shit, I feel like people have no idea I didn't even know what the hell was going on until I went to Palestine and saw how crazy it was. But
what is it like? Give me your thoughts on your
So
experience.
Everyone mistakenly thinks that Hamas controls Palestine. That's not true at all. There's 3 different areas that were drawn up with the original partition. It's the West Bank, which is totally under military rule by Israel, and then there's the Gaza Strip, which is like the open air prison, which they bomb the shit out of like every couple of years, and Hamas controls that area. And then there's Jerusalem, which is an international city center that both Arabs and Jews live in. But the West Bank has been occupied militarily since 1967, and it's complete martial law. There's checkpoints. All political parties are illegal. You can't. Having a gun is like the least of it. You can't hold a flag. You can't belong to a political party. You literally can't do shit if you're a Palestinian. You just have to sit there and submit. And even if you share a photo of someone who was like killed by an Israeli soldier, you go to jail, and you go to jail for the amount of like months that. What? Yeah, based on the shares and likes of the photo, they'll penalize you more and put you in prison for longer and longer. I mean, I'll just tell you one story.
If you put a photo on social media, like you put
of someone
on
who
Facebook,
died, and they'll be like, "You're sharing a martyr and inciting people to like commit suicide, like on behalf of Palestinians. You go to jail," and they put them in jail. There's 99.7% conviction rate. Kids are tortured. Kids are in prison. It is absolutely insane. We went to the first day that we were there. We went to a funeral of some guy, some farmer who was shot by Israeli forces, and we went to the funeral. It was horrible. You know, all the women are wailing and crying. And as we're leaving, the Israeli forces had set up a checkpoint right outside of this dude's house and started tear gassing and shooting rubber bullets like at people who were simply attending the funeral, just to punish people for attending the funeral. We went to another girl's house named Aya, who got shot in the vagina for peacefully protesting at some protest, and they shot 200 people that day. One guy next to her died, another guy was paralyzed. They have a policy called shoot to cripple, where they shoot guys in the dicks. Yeah. Oh, it is fucking nuts, man. The West Bank is no joke. I thought that I was gonna die several times. We were at this checkpoint going through Calandia, and there was this old man walking, like clearly drunk or something, and kind of like walking a little bit toward the checkpoint. They started shooting at him. Bullets are ricocheting off the thing. And my partner Mike, who was an invading soldier of Iraq, was just like, we're gonna die. Like, they're shooting this guy, there's bullets ricocheting. It was absolutely insane. And as we go through the checkpoint, the soldier's like, hey, stay safe out there. And I was like, yeah, when you guys are arbitrarily shooting people. And the person who was driving us had just told us that a couple months prior to that, some woman, Palestinian woman, because you can't go to Jerusalem. Like, if you're Palestinian, there's like barely any Palestinians who are even allowed to go pray at the most holy site, the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. You can't go to the beach. You're just...
And so, to Jack's point about using some of the lie detection technology, particularly for eyewitnesses, not only can we put information in without blowing up your brain, we can put it in and then you can believe it so sincerely that the problem is you can testify to that effect. And in fact, we've seen this in a number of ways. The police were doing lineups where the suggestibility of the information was so strong that people would later identify a person that they'd seen. For example, you show a picture lineup and only one person has on a jacket and nobody else does. And then when you go to the live lineup, because your brain triggered that there was something different about that person, you identify the person who you've just seen, but not realizing that it's because of some difference. And then you've seen them twice, and now you're asked to testify as an eyewitness, and you're so convicted about having seen that person commit the crime, even though that person is utterly innocent, that it becomes a planted memory. And so there's some really interesting research that we can plant false memories in the brain. And in a different context, one of the emerging areas that's really interesting in law neuroscience is pain detection. And once we understand the circuitries that cause pain. I guess the question is, could we then instill pain and use that in many coercive measures in the legal system as well? So.
Just this simple drug, Tylenol.
But if you PubMed Tylenol and autism,
No way, bro.
most people don't even know that Tylenol is one of the primary, published risk factors to autism, especially Tylenol and
Stop wearing these smart watches. I've warned you about electromagnetic frequencies, radio frequencies this close to your body. Well, a watch right on your body, putting that frequency in all day long, not a good idea. Oh my gosh, could it get worse? Notre Dame study, they looked at 22 different watches. 15 out of the 22 had high dangerous levels of, guess what? Forever chemicals. If you got a natural rubber, totally different. But these aren't natural rubber because they're conducting into the body. But that's what they said, that the forever chemicals are being absorbed right into your bloodstream. So this is a high level exposure all day long into your wrist. Get rid of these things. EMF and now the forever chemical. Oh, and by the way, if you need a reminder, hormone disrupting this chemical, liver disrupting, kidney disrupting, endocrine disrupting, every possible bad thing in the big C. Yeah, it's causing that too. And it's being shown in studies and awarded millions of dollars for causing cancer. Get rid of the stuff.
Plugged in there. Reading power. The phone here. Not reading any power on it. Plug it in. Oops. Got power running all through it. Let me see your hand. Turn your hand over. Okay, no, don't hold on yet. Let me see your hand. Turn it over. Okay, now hold her hand. Let go. Okay, do it on your own. Okay, let go. Touch her face.
This counterfeit like LeBron James, who has that bootleg logo tattooed on his chest. When LeBron retires, his number would be called 2. Okay, this is how the deep state, he thinks that he's just going to retire, and that's why he doesn't want to retire. You know the former NBA player Dwayne Wade?
Correct.
His son Zion is now called Zaya. Okay, this is how these people within the system, to go to the next level, you have to sacrifice something. This goes back thousands of years during the time of the pharaohs. If a man wanted to have access to Pharaoh, he had to sleep with the male magician. If a woman wanted to have access to Pharaoh, she had to sleep with the female magician. If a parent wanted their child to see Pharaoh, that child had to sleep with the male or female magician. Nothing has changed. In the rap industry, to go at a certain level financially, you have to be what we call butt broken. Humiliation. And to your powerful listeners, this goes back into slavery, right? The transatlantic slave trade. Slaves who could not be controlled were sent to the Caribbean, and they were tied down, mostly men, chest first, and molested by a male slave master in front of the other family members and in front of the other slaves. Nothing has changed.
Why not target the African American community? Why not say then, this is for you? This is for African Americans. If there was a banking crisis, then you target money for the banks. If there was a national disaster, you target your money for the national for disaster relief.
That's not how America works.
We want to give those young people and young Native Americans like them the support they deserve. We have to invest in them and believe in them and love them.
Why not target the African American community? Why not say then, this is for you? This is for African Americans.
That's not how America works.
President Barack Obama has begun new initiatives aimed at helping young American Indians or Native Americans overcome the many challenges they face, from poverty to substance abuse.
Why not target the African American community? Why not say then, this is for you? This is for African Americans.
That's not how America works.
And few have been more marginalized and ignored by Washington for as long as Native Americans, our first Americans.
Why not target the African American community? Why not say then, this is for you? This is for African Americans.
That's not how America works.
The #1
least favorite minority group, according to Hans Kim, is the blacks. What's the most conservative thing about you?
I hate certain minorities.
Whoa! What's your top 3 minorities that you hate? Starting with number 3.
Sri Lankans.
We were really concerned you might just drop the N-word right from the top there. Right from the number 3 position. The number 2 least favorite group of immigrants to Hans Kim.
Native Americans.
What is it about the Native Americans that you don't like?
They're poor and dirty.
You better turn on your radio, man.
What do you think about these black lives matter that they want to be paid for being what is it, slaves and all that?
Reparations.
Oh, yeah, there.
Are you talking about reparations? Well, I heard they passed in North Carolina.
Yes.
But it was
What?
It was a small little town in North Carolina that passed reparations for whoever's over there. I'm sure they'll try to do something out here in California. I think they already actually got a little board going that they're going to start looking into it. So
yeah, and that's when we, the Raza, need to step up, protest, and I'm talking major, and turn around and tell them, no, nobody getting reparations until the Native Americans and the Mexicans get our...
Economist consultants from the task force reported the total amount could be as much as $800 billion. $800 billion. That's 2.5 times the size of our entire state budget. To pay for that, you'd need a major tax hike, unlike anything this state has ever seen before. I recognize and acknowledge the painful part of our history. The pains of our past should not be paid by the people of today. The majority of our state is Latino and Asian, making up 55% of our population. Most of them, like me, are first, second, or third generation immigrants who had nothing to do with slavery, discrimination, Jim Crow laws, nothing. It is fundamentally unfair to force these people to pay for this, and because of that, I will be opposing to.
1930 to 1930, 6,000 Latinos were lynched, burned alive, and shot. Then we were massacred. We were redlined. We were segregated. We were experimented on. Our women were sterilized, unbeknownst to them in California in the early 1900s. And yet, we were the first to fight against segregation in 1911. The Maestas family in Denver, Colorado, and they won. Sylvia Mendez fought against segregation in 1940 and won, paved the way for Brown versus Board of Ed.
Mexicans, in fact, did not want it to end segregation because they benefited from white privilege. In fact, we know that the Mendez case was never about ending segregation. If anything, it proves further my point, because basically what it says is that I don't want to end segregation. I just want you to treat me just as the rest of the whites because I am white. So it solidifies what we have been saying all this time, because at that time there were Mexican schools inside of the white communities. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, this is what Mexicans believed back then. We have John Herrera out here, the LULAC president in 1952, saying Latin Americans of Mexican descent belong to the Caucasian race and are therefore white.
Mexico is extremely racist. So we have what are like
Guatemalans,
even to its own Mexicans. So you got to remember, Mexico was dominated by the Spaniards. The only reason I look the way I look is because I'm 65% Spaniard.
Yeah.
Mexicans, like real Mexicans, or which is known as Mexica, not Mexico, Mexica, are 5'4", super dark with big noses and the heads pushed back. Aztecs and Mayans,
like Indians.
Like Indians. Yes. Well, we're natives, right? Yeah. So we're blended. We're natives, right? So we're blended. So the reality is, in Mexico, till this day, if you are not light complected, somewhat tall, you're frowned upon to this day. And by the way, they're very open about it. It's not like it's a secret. It's not like it's a hidden.
Yeah.
You're short and you're dark, and we don't like you. So the fact that it's so funny to me that Mexicans cry racism when they practice more racism in Mexico than America practices on anybody else.
My problem.